Witch Weekly editorial, where we go beneath the surface of the wondrous world of Harry Potter and try to get underneath the headlines, the assumptions, and the parts of the story people think they already know.
I'm Rita.
And I'm Betty.
And we're so thrilled to have you join our weekly broadcast.
And today we are doing a deep dive into the chosen one himself, Mr. Harry James Potter. And we have a lot to say.
So much so that we're going to have to split this into 2 parts.
Unlike the 7-part soul, of which Harry is 1 part. But speaking of souls, actually, and I think this is actually just a very interesting kind of parallel of if we're splitting the trio into like different factions, I think Hermione easily and obviously is the brain of the 3.
Yeah.
I think Ron really is sort of the heart and like that loyalty part of it.
Yeah.
But Harry is the soul of the trio, and I think it just maps very well of like how the story is really all about like the importance of the soul and the importance of innate goodness and whatnot. So I just think it's an interesting parallel.
Yeah. And obviously the raison d'etre of the trio is because of Harry and the fact that he's on this mission or this path of, you know, good versus evil and making sure that that's where the story is kind of taking us.
Yeah. And I mean, like, obviously the trio is such the heartblood of what makes this story special, but obviously the other major relationship that's going on is the relationship between Harry and Voldemort, and like I think Dumbledore says it multiple times, both to Harry and to Sirius and to Snape as well, of like the two of them have forayed so deeply into the realms of magic that we didn't really think could happen, and they've intertwined their fates and their lives and their souls so closely together that like Dumbledore says you cannot talk about one without talking about the other, right? Of like he has that line about it's for Voldemort experiencing a soul like Harry's is like flesh being on fire or like a mind touching steel or what have you. They're such character foils to each other, so you can't really talk about one without having to talk about the other, because that is what sets the entire saga into motion.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basis of the prophecy too, right? Like one cannot live without the other. So that's really that's really what kicks the story into motion when you're in universe.
Yeah, and I mean, it really just, that's where we start, right? Is that like you have that real loss of innocence and just such a tragic act. Like it's off page, obviously, to us, the reader, because when we come into the story, it's like that gray Tuesday and it's November 1st and everything's already happened. But knowing what we know now, obviously it started so much before that. This is right after Voldemort's reign of terror for 11 years.
Yeah.
And he's finally killed Lily and James and tried to kill baby Harry, and it obviously hasn't worked. And that's why we get to the point where Harry is dropped off at the Dursleys, and he really has no identity of who he is or what his family is or why is he living this life, like for the first 10 years of his life, really, because he isn't allowed to ask questions. Nobody talks about him. He's so isolated. And so like, that act is really what kind of kicks off the whole story.
And because the story is so much from his perspective, we don't find out a lot of that, or you know, and how that defines his role in his life until much later on. And you never get it like all at once. It's like slowly as he is able to build his view of the world and understand more of his history. Like that's how the reader finds out that information throughout the series as well.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited for the show to get into some of these like more darker parts of, and like a little bit more like we're always over Harry's shoulder in the books and the movies. So I find that like what this show seems to be aiming to do is really expand some of that. And we've seen some of those clips of like what like the downfall of Voldemort and the end of the First War looked like, and like it's from the trailer, at least it seems like we're getting like how isolated Harry is while he's living at the Dursleys. And like obviously this is going to be like this comment in particular will be like a offshoot, I guess, but like in the Fantastic Beasts movies, a big plot point there is the Obscurus. And like, I think looking back, we kind of know that Ariana, Dumbledore's sister, was probably, she had an Obscurus, but it's not named that.
Yeah, but it's very like, there's a big
Very,
reason for
very
why like Harry could have been one
Yeah.
too, but I think it's, and again, like fan theory, there are lots of fan theories about it, and I'm sure we'll get into it at some point. But I think there's lots of, like, I think like there's something to be said about Harry being a Horcrux in terms of why he could never become an Obscurus. But again, I think we should save that for a different rant.
No, but the reason I bring it up is that like he could have gone very differently, right? And like you notice that with like if he had become friends with Malfoy instead of
Yeah.
Ron, Harry's life and the arc of the story could have gone a very different way.
Yeah.
Because like he was very mistreated by the Dursleys, right? Like
Yeah.
they went out of his way, I think, to
Yeah,
make him
yeah,
feel
exactly.
worse and make Dudley feel better.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore will call out to that in book 6 of like, well, at least he wasn't as mistreated as Dudley was. But I think like throughout all of that adversity, he doesn't lose like that like innocence and that sense of this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And that keeps, I think that's really, that roots him throughout the rest of the story because he always has it out for the little guy.
Yeah, strong moral fiber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like, you know, he's been dreaming of this escape, and he's like, sometimes maybe people pass me in the street, and it seems like they know who I am, but
Yeah.
there's no way. And then finally Hagrid comes and gives him these letters,
Yeah.
and he's like, wow, like, maybe I do belong somewhere else.
Right.
That could have gone very darkly.
Yeah.
but-
It's a children's book.
It's a children's book, so it wouldn't have. But in the real world, maybe.
Yeah.
But then obviously he gets to the Leaky Cauldron. Everyone knows who he is. And, like, Hagrid finally tells them this story for the first time. And he gets to understand, like...
A little bit. This is what I meant.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you get, like, bits and pieces of
Yeah.
the story throughout, like, as Harry, you know, kind of grows up and, like, finds out more and more about him. So this is, like, maybe, like, the first piece of the puzzle that he has to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, obviously we get the train ride. And he makes his first friend. And, like,
it's so great.
It's such a good moment. I'm so excited to see this.
Yeah.
But it's like Ron really has nothing to offer him in this moment other than friendship and like
Yeah.
they've known each other for like 3 hours at this point, and then Malfoy comes in.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's already like predisposed to not like Malfoy
Right.
because of the
Incident at the robe shop,
at
Madame
Malkin's.
Malkin's.
But he can tell that being friends with this person will maybe make my life easier in certain ways.
Yeah, but he knows he doesn't like
But he
him.
knows he
It's
doesn't
very,
like
again,
him.
it goes back to his right and wrong instinct.
Yeah.
It's just something that's built into him.
Yeah, and like everyone knows who he is, obviously, and he's not comfortable with it, right? He's like,
Right.
why do people feel
He doesn't feel like he's like earned the stripes yet, kind of
And
thing.
he's
Yeah.
like, why do people feel like they have a right to my story and my tragedy when I don't even seem to have a full understanding of it yet?
Yeah.
And I think the only time that he finally feels comfortable with being thrust into that limelight is when he figures out that he's good at flying and
Yeah.
good at Quidditch, right? He's like,
That's the only thing he ever
he's-
credits
yeah.
himself with, I feel like. He's like,
I'm a fair flyer.
Yeah.
And fake Moody is like, you're damn better than fair.
Yeah.
I've heard the right stories.
yeah, and like, even though like he has that like hero complex and does save a bunch of people, I don't think that's ever how he would define himself as
No.
like a savior.
Not at all. Like he takes real issue with Hermione calling out his hero complex, actually.
Yeah.
But like the only thing that he actually feels like, he doesn't even feel like he's good at defense against the dark arts. He has to be pushed
That's right.
into the DA. But
Yeah.
like the one thing that he feels like, hey, I can do this and I can do it well and this is easy to me is
Yeah.
Quidditch.
Yeah.
And like that's the only time he feels like this I am good at, this I deserve, and like other than that he does not want to be.
Yeah, he doesn't want that credit because that's not his vibe. And I think you can see that throughout like the first book, right? I think that's where he feels very much good at what he does. And I think the other thing that he really focuses on is sort of that just getting used to this new world that he's thrust into, building building relationships with friends that he has, and trying to do the right thing where possible. Like even with the troll situation, Ron is like, oh, do we have to save her? And Harry's like, well, obviously we have to save her. She's crying because of what we said. But it was mostly Ron.
It was mostly Ron.
But again, like that kind of forms like the burden of like the core friendship that they have. And so I think that's where it all begins.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the real area for Harry to show off his skills is more at the end, when they're able to kind of go down the trap door and figure that part of the story out. Again, for Harry, it's more so like, how do I do the right thing? How do I make sure that like I'm doing my part, and understanding why he has to, it's his quote unquote destiny to stop Voldemort, you know, even though he might not fully contemplate or understand like the Horcruxes and everything that we find out later on. It's more just his like innate goodness that says, this is what I know I have to do, because I don't care about house points, I don't care about this. Like, it's more like, do you think he's just gonna leave Hogwarts alone? And just being able to have that like understanding or maturity to say that like school points don't matter if he comes back and like takes over the wizarding world. Like, haven't you heard all the stories that people talk about?
Yeah. And I think that like that courage of having to do the hard thing at the right time really matters. And like, just before I get into that, I mean, you spoke about this of like house points don't matter, and like if Voldemort comes back, like nothing, like the world is not going to be the same. And he doesn't even really have the full context of knowing exactly all the horrible things that Voldemort has done, and all these, and like he has this moment much later on in like book 4 after the Pensieve incident with finding out about like Neville's parents, of like it came back to Voldemort, and he was the one who had ripped all these lives apart and like changed everyone's destiny. So he doesn't even know all this stuff yet.
Yeah, he just knows this like
is
a very
bad thing,
very basic good versus bad situation. And I think that's what he wants to. That's again, like he knows what side of the fence he wants to be.
Exactly. And like, I haven't forgotten obviously about the incident in the forest with Firenze and the foreshadowing in the plot, but we're going to talk about that in a separate episode, just because there's a lot to get into with the centaurs and like prophecies and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that separately, but I just wanted to make sure that people knew we hadn't forgotten about it. And then obviously finally they go through the trap door at the end, and like he's like, I'm gonna do this, and he has no expectation that Ron and Hermione are going to be there with him, right? He just thinks, this is my crusade, and like then they're the ones who are like, will all three of us fit under the cloak?
So
and he's
funny.
like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're not going by yourself, come on. And it's a good thing he doesn't, because he would not survive
get very
that
far.
chest
I don't think he would even survive the first room.
Oh no, he would barely. He could have caught the key, I think, but he like barely catches it.
He wouldn't even make it
two.
to the key.
Oh no. Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot about the the devil's snare.
Yeah. And again, that's a consistent theme, right? Like they say it at the end. They say it in the 7th book too. Like he's like, oh, I think I should just go alone, and then Hermione's like, you're not going alone. Like this is, we decided this months ago, years really.
And like, that's the moment.
Yeah. And so
this is the moment in the trap door.
Exactly.
Like, they are with him, and like, they're 11. They could easily say, you know what, this is a lot for me.
This is above my pay grade.
Good luck.
But this is why they're all Gryffindors. Like even Hermione to that extent. Like she's not going to ever turn her back on something like this. So
never.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's his instinct. And again, we also haven't forgotten about the Mirror of Erised. We're going to talk about that later. But like his understanding of how, like, and he's not really been in the magical world that long, but he has that innate understanding of certain types of magic and like just good intuition, I think.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I don't care if I live or I die. I don't want to get rich. I don't want to live forever. All I want is to stop Quirrell from getting the stone. It's not that I want the stone. It's that I don't want him to have the stone.
Yeah, and that's what ends up, working working in the end. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
like then they have the obviously Dumbledore is like explaining it to him in the hospital wing after. But the first question he says is, why did he want to kill me in the first place?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't going after my parents, he was going after me, but I
Right.
was a baby. I couldn't have done anything
Yeah.
to piss him off. And like Dumbledore's like, the first thing you're asking me is
Yeah.
like the biggest thing I can't tell you,
Right,
basically,
exactly.
right? But like he talks a lot about in that scene about like the importance of a mother's love and like
Yeah.
how that's the big theme at like not just a mother's love, but like love in general of like that is the only thing that will fight against and stave off such an evil hatred like the type of thing that Voldemort is trying to put out into the world, right? And Dumbledore will call back to this later of like you were still that same innocent boy that you were at 11, and you were so good and pure that you didn't care about anything other than making sure that your friends were safe
Yeah.
and all that type of stuff, right? Of like he's not in it for himself or money or power. He's in it because he wants to do the right thing for the right people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a very consistent character trait. Yeah, character trait that we see in Harry throughout all the 7 books.
Yeah. And then obviously we get into Chamber of Secrets, and I feel there's so much in Chamber as well, just relating to like the broader wizarding world
Yeah.
and then understanding Voldemort, because this is the first time you get like backstory on, and we don't know that yet, but like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
will.
like when you find out
Yeah.
more from the diary and things like that,
Yeah.
for sure.
But like obviously we start with book 2, there's a lot of like again that feeling of isolation and
Yeah.
insecurity, and like for majority of book 1, like ever since he gets to Hogwarts, he's like, you know what, I actually do belong here. There's like I've got friends, I've got like this is my place, this is my
Yeah.
world. And then he's gone for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Well, not even a
4,
full 8
4,
weeks. Like, I
but
think he's like really struggling with not hearing from his friends,
Yeah.
and he's very much like, oh, that feels weird.
He's like, oh, like, did they even like me? Or
Yeah.
like, have they forgotten all about me already?
Yeah.
And like, that's just gotta be a really.
But it's pretty, I mean, I would say, like, yeah, it's hard, but then, like, I think it's, validated when he finds that, like, Dobby's the one who's been stealing them. And so it's just very interesting. And Dobby's obviously an important character that shows, like, kind of weaves in and out of the books. And we'll, I'm sure, do a deep dive on that at some point. But it's interesting that then he kind of gets into trouble for that dessert and somehow.
And that will come back again later.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like the big part to understand here is, again, like Ron and Harry's friendship, because, Ron's like, well, I haven't heard from this guy in 4 weeks, instead of, doing the thing that rational 12-year-olds would do. He's like, you know what? I'm going to fly this car
Steal a car.
and I'm going to go kidnap him. Cool. So it's just interesting. So I think to Harry feeling, insecure about like his friendship, it's in fact it's like the other way around. Like Ron's
like, I don't have
not
time for
only
this.
is he's gonna break Harry out, but he's enlisting the help of his older brothers,
Yeah.
who, albeit I'm sure, want to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just like they're 3 underage kids like gonna go kidnap some other kid.
Well, the thing is, Fred and George are predisposed to break
Chaos,
the rules,
yeah.
right? They are chaos agents, and I love them for that. But, like, Ron, the only thing Ron has to say is, hey guys, I need your help with something. And they don't they have a relationship with Harry, obviously, because they're in the
Yeah.
same house, they're beaters on the team, so they've spent time together.
Right.
But they're not
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not as close as
Of course.
Ron, right? But
Yeah.
they're like, no holds barred, tell us what you need, we're gonna bust him out with you, basically.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, when he gets to the burrow, he's like, there's all these weird things and there's noises and the mirror is yelling at me because my
Yeah.
hair is messy and I haven't tucked in my shirt, and the ghoul is making me banging on pipes. But the weirdest thing was that everyone in this house liked me. And that's just, it's so sweet and endearing and sad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is the first time he's experienced family, and specifically with Molly as well, of like understanding what it's like to have a mother figure in his life that treats him the way that he should be treated, because Petunia did not give him that, obviously.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a very important summer for him. Like he learns a lot about like those other things that he would have never experienced, which is very important.
Yeah. And then obviously we've moving through the whole Diagon Alley, the diary and the fight with Lucius and Arthur. We get to school and Harry's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna have a good year. You know, like we had the Voldemort stuff last year. We're gonna move past it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that again. I'm gonna play some Quidditch. I'm going to go to class and everything will be fine. And everything was, in fact, not fine.
Yeah, it doesn't last very long. And I think, you know, even as quickly as he starts hearing the weird sounds in the school, in like whatever the pipes supposedly, I think it's a strong start to the book because you're then like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what is the year going to look like? And it immediately gets dark when you find like the petrified cat and then like the petrified kids. So it's just very escalatory because like you don't actually know what is causing it. And what's interesting is that, you know, last year you kind of got the vibe that like Dumbledore knew what was going on, but this year like even Dumbledore doesn't seem to understand what's going on. Like he was around the last time the chamber was opened.
Actually, what he says is the question is not who, the question is how.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm sure he knows what happened at that time, but he's not able to prove it, right?
Like, I don't understand. I know what's happening, but I don't know how this is happening. And so there's this feeling.
But even he doesn't actually know the history, like the truth of like the chamber or like what's in it or like whatever, right?
But
like
he just knows that like
who did it last time.
Yeah, and also there's this sense from the students and from Harry that like the teachers don't know what's going on.
And that's what makes it different.
Yeah, that's what makes it different to book one, because in book one, Harry says, you know, I think Dumbledore kind of has an understanding of everything that's going on here. He's willing to let us like try our hand at it.
Yeah, exactly.
But in book two, it's this feeling of Dumbledore is unclear of how to solve this problem. And that, I think, is a really big lesson for him to learn, of like the adults in the room don't always have, like, even if someone as great and powerful as Dumbledore does not have a handle on things, and you can't rely on the adults to just fix it. And that, unfortunately, is going to keep coming up with Harry, of like, if you just talk to like someone with a fully formed frontal lobe.
But he doesn't do that. He never does that.
He never does that.
Yeah, so that's what makes this book interesting. And then obviously like with Hermione out of commission for, you know, most part of the year, like I think that's kind of what helps Harry and Ron more to like sharpen their resolve and figure out how we solve this problem.
And also like Hermione being out of commission is really like, I mean, he was always this person, but I think it really helps cement that into his identity of like standing up for like the quote unquote marginalized like people in this world, right? Because who are they attacking? They're attacking Muggleborns. They're attacking quote unquote lesser beings.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I think that really helps cement his world. And like even that scene after the Quidditch match with Dobby, he's like really mad at Dobby about like he's broken his arm now because the Lockhart doesn't know how to do anything. But like Dobby starts crying into this like old ragged
like he immediately has sympathy to Dobby. And no, I agree. That's so, like, kind of his thing.
And I think that like is a big thing for him.
Yeah, like, and then when we get to the end, like when like again like Hermione's out of the picture, like they kind of figure out like, again Hermione figures it out. They're the ones who put together that like where the entrance is, being able to string the whole story together. And then
right before that, like I think the other through line throughout this is that from like with like a Hogwarts worldview, Harry is the villain because nobody else knows who the villain's going to be, right? He's been the villain since the dueling club
only incident. Until Hermione is
Yes, only until Hermione
Hermione's
is petrified. But for like a solid like 6 months,
months,
I would
yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And like this is just really like we had a little bit of it in book 1 after the detention thing, but that was just like he lost us some points, right?
Yeah, this is
like
different.
an
People could
actual-
die.
Yeah, this is an actual like this guy is dangerous and he's attacking people and
Yeah.
he's mentally unstable, and this will come back in like books 4 and 5.
Right.
And like obviously just later in general in the arc of the war.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is the first time he experiences this of like people think I'm the nutcase, I'm attacking people, I'm letting Slytherin's monster loose.
Right.
The only people who don't believe it are like Ron and Hermione and like the twins, right? Or like and like the
Yeah, like the
general.
Gryffindors, I don't think
Yeah.
really believe him. Like even
Yeah.
like later when Seamus is not on his side, like I think this time he is on his side.
Yes,
So I think
exactly.
it's like
So
the
he's
Gryffindor
got like
side.
his
Yeah.
like corner of people,
Yeah.
and I think this shows him how to be resilient in the face of things that are going to be much worse. Because in books 4, 5, and beyond, like it's not just people outside my house that are going to hate me. It's going to be
People-
Seamus. It's going to be
Yeah.
the guy whose bed is on the other side of the room. It's
Yeah.
going to be
It's more
everybody.
escalatory,
Like,
yeah.
he's got like people in his corner right now that help him build those muscles of like whatever, sticks and stones. I know what the truth is. And whatever. And then obviously we get into the chamber part, which sorry, I cut you off and went on this side road here.
Yeah, no, I was saying like even before they get to the chamber, again, like when they find out that it's Ginny, like he never hesitates to say, oh, like obviously we're gonna go down to the chamber and rescue her because
Yeah.
like A, like that's the right thing to do, but B, like now she's kind of family
Yeah.
and this is what I have to do. Yeah. And so that's a really interesting, like again, like when Ron's not able to like basically think straight, like Harry's gonna drive the ship, and again,
Yeah.
like that would be his natural
Yeah.
natural kind of instinct
Yeah.
to do so anyways. And then like even in the chamber, like the interaction with like Tom Riddle figuring out who he is, like that's like a big like mind warp to him. He's like, why do you care about Voldemort? And then being able to finally piece that together, like that's a huge moment for the
yeah.
reader. Even it's like it's mind-blowing, and when you learn that, it's like, whoa, like no one saw that coming. Like you kind of like at that point, because it was only the second book, you didn't know if it was like a Harry's gonna have
different
to
villain every year or what.
yeah, Harry's gonna have to face a different bad guy every year, or like, you know, there's other people who are like trying to come after him, but then like being able to like piece, like as a reader, like I think that was such a cool moment.
Oh, yeah. With like the writing and like
Yeah.
that scene is done so well. in
I
the
think they
movie.
can I think they can do
I think
it
they
better.
I agree, but like it was done very well. And like honestly at the time you're like now looking back you're like Voldemort monologues a lot, okay? It's like this like classic bad guy stereotype.
Yeah.
But like in that scene he gives you so much insight into his character, right? Because nobody knows like Dumbledore says nobody alive. A
lot of people don't know Tom
or
Riddle
if
and
they
Voldemort.
know, they're
Yeah.
not willing to talk about the fact
Yeah.
that Tom Riddle
Is
that
Voldemort.
handsome,
Right.
amazing guy who we thought would be the youngest Minister of Magic,
Right.
became
Voldemort,
Voldemort.
yeah.
And like Harry uses the information he gleans out of this first conversation to like taunt the other Death Eaters of like, oh, did you know that like this guy was also a half-blood and like he's named after his dad and whatever, of trying to like goad them into basically trying to shatter their worldview of what you're believing and what you're doing doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But like we just get so much knowledge, and obviously the basilisk will come back in importance and the chamber will come back into importance later in book 7, but like
Right.
so much happens, and like you've got that through line of like the loyalty to Dumbledore. You've got like the fox element of it, and then like Harry just not wanting to like leave anybody behind, even if it's Lockhart.
Yeah, exactly. and again, that just goes back to his
hero
innate
complex.
goodness. But yeah, I think that's a consistent theme.
Yeah. And then finish book 2, get into book 3, and like Sirius breaks out. We don't really know that he's like a magical thing yet, but the part of the plot is introduced to us. But then
Yeah.
Muriel shows up, And that's a really big one because like
Muriel.
Muriel's the worst.
She is the worst.
She's like, it's like
She's
her,
not the worst, the worst.
Umbridge
Umbridge is the worst.
and then like
She's a
Fudge.
close second. No, I think she's worse than Fudge.
Muriel's worse than Fudge sucks.
Yeah. Fudge sucks, but Muriel's worse. I think she's worse. Like the scale of her impact
So
is
it's
not
like
that high.
Umbridge, Muriel, Fudge in your ranking.
Yeah, like Umbridge is. I mean, Muriel's like circle of influence is small, so like,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not that it's just
not that
immaterial,
important.
yes.
But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But anyways, Muriel sucks and like she comes in hard, right? She comes in and she's like, if there's something wrong with the bitch, there's something wrong with the pup. And
Yeah,
you're
that's
like,
an aggressive stance to take.
very aggressive stance to take. And like Harry's like loses his mind and like
As one would.
One would. Because he's got the like context of
Yeah,
like,
he knows like what
he's
his
not
parents
10 anymore.
sacrificed.
Yeah.
But he knows what they have had to give up and like what they
Yeah.
sacrificed.
He's not 10 anymore where he doesn't
Yeah.
know what happened. He's had a lot more information of like
Yeah.
my mom is the
Literally-
reason I'm alive
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
And
not this like it's
I
the
also
context
would
is
lose
all
my
different.
mind.
Yeah.
And obviously runs away.
It's great. I think it's great because like we get to see a whole different side of Diagon Alley. Harry gets to like
Be independent and free for once.
independent, just has a lot of fun. Like I think just being able to, just enjoy the summer like a normal
13-year-old
person should.
It's
So it's
just,
great.
Yeah. So like obviously it starts off bad, becomes better.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the summer holidays, obviously Arthur actually no, that happens in the movies. In the books, he just overhears Arthur and Molly in the Leaky Cauldron at the bar when he's going to look for the Scabbers rot
Right.
tonic.
Yeah, exactly.
In the movies, Arthur pulls him aside, but he's like, Fudge thinks he can't know this.
Yeah.
I need to tell him. And Arthur tries to talk to him at the train station. And he's like,
Right.
don't worry, I already know. I'm not scared. And Arthur's like, do I buy that? And he's like, well, you should. But obviously Arthur knows a lot more to the conversation than he's letting on. But then you get on the train and Harry's like, do you think this weirdo adult, the only adult that we've ever seen on the train except for the cart lady, you think he's really knocked out? They're like, I guess. So then he tells them the whole story. And like, again, this is an important moment because like,
Again, goes back to their friendship and
Yes.
like it's a strong theme throughout the
to
book.
have his back.
Yeah.
And like this will contrast later after he hears the prophecy, because after he hears the prophecy, his instinct is, I'm not going to tell anybody about this. And Dumbledore's like, you
should
them.
tell people
But
about
here
this.
in book 3, he's like, he doesn't need anybody to nudge him into
Yeah.
talking to them. He's
Yeah.
just like, I need to discuss this with you guys. And then obviously we get the Dementor that comes on the train. And then we have the introduction or the awakening of Remus.
Yeah, this is a great moment for
is a
Harry and
really nice
Remus, and like you don't know the depth of like you don't
Yeah.
know who he is and the importance until much later on, and I think
so
it's
good.
great.
So good.
Yeah. So and then again, like I think like after the train, just going back into the school and thinking that he was gonna have like a reasonably normal year.
like,
It's
"Oh,
obviously
new
not
classes
normal.
coming up."
Yeah, new classes, new
Hagrid's gonna
subjects.
teach
Hagrid's gonna be a
something.
teacher. But again, like he's kind of overshadowed by the constant threat of Sirius Black and like the Dementors.
Yeah.
And I think Harry being able to, try to constantly struggle to live a normal life is again overshadowed by all of these other extra Hogwarts events that are happening that always influence his life. And, it impacts him day to day. Like even when he loses that Quidditch match against Cedric, because of the Dementors, and then being put in a
That's a
situation.
big moment.
Yeah, being put in a situation where he has to now say like, hey, someone needs to teach me how to fight these things because they're interfering with my day-to-day life.
Yeah. And like, to be honest, like that, he doesn't ask adults for help a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
But like he feels this close bond with Lupin, and for good reason. But like Lupin does not try to treat him any differently than
Right.
he would treat any other people, even though it's his like best friend's son that he's known since birth.
Yeah.
Probably. Like he's not trying to like.
Yeah, he's not trying to be, unlike
Yeah,
Snape, he's able to
unlike Snape,
separate his
yes.
personal
Which
feelings
is
from the
weird
situation.
because Snape is the one who's like master of occlumency. So
Yeah.
he should control your emotions. Discipline your mind. He should be the one who can like
No.
put that stuff aside, but he can't. And Lupin, he doesn't like Snape that much, but he's like, you know what? We're 15.
We're all adults
We're
here,
adults now.
but not really.
Yes, some people have not moved past certain things.
That's correct.
It's bonkers. But that's what I mean, is that Lupin has like a lot of emotional maturity in that way of like, look, Snape, we don't really love each other, but you're keeping me alive and I'm going to be nothing but nice to you.
Yeah.
And like this kid that I feel like in another lifetime, he would have been at my house. I
All
would have
the
been
time.
part of raising him.
Yeah.
Like, and like he's got to have a lot of grief there.
Yeah.
For a life that would have been, but like he compartmentalizes, and the only real times you see Lupin crack is like the first time when they're practicing the Patronus charm.
Yeah, when
and
he hears James. Yeah.
That's when Lupin breaks. But
Yeah.
like, and he like even in that scene, he doesn't give Harry a whole lot to.
Yeah,
go
you
off
don't
of.
really find out the depth of their relationship until
Until the
Harry.
end.
Until Harry overhears the thing at the Three Broomsticks, right? Like that's when he finds out like that they were like such good friends.
Well, he doesn't know that about Lupin though. He only knows
He does because
no. He
no, he knows that they are friends. Like they talk about the four of them. He says like Sirius and James are friends. But
and
then
Pettigrew, but they don't say Lupin by name.
oh, I see.
No. So he only finds out that Lupin
when
was
he
part of the gang
when he gives her
at
the
the
map
end.
back.
Yeah, at the end
I
in the
see.
Shrieking Shack. But like if we're talking about this scene that I think you're trying to get at is the twins give him the map, which is the only other thing that he has of his father.
Other than the cloak.
But he sneaks in, and then it's that last weekend of term.
Yeah.
When
I think
they're
you're right.
in
That's when he finds
the
out
broomsticks.
that about like
That's when he finds out that
right.
James and Sirius were best friends, and then also separately that Pettigrew was just part of the gang, but
they
never
don't know
call out Lupin
Lupin.
by
I see.
name, so
Okay.
he doesn't know that.
Right,
But
you're right.
What he knows is this guy, like he's already doesn't really like Sirius. Like obviously he wouldn't.
Yeah.
You worked for the guy who killed my parents.
Yeah,
tried to
but
kill me.
this
So
is
I don't
different.
like you, but this is a different level of betrayal to Harry because
Mm-hmm.
he's like, you were their best friend.
Yeah.
How did you do this?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he goes back, he looks through the album, and he's like, it's the same guy. And
Yeah.
she's like, my mom is like, this is the best day of her life, and my dad is laughing, and this guy is standing between them, and you were supposed to be my godfather, and you were supposed to be their best friend. And like that is what moves him from disliking Sirius
To hatred.
to hatred. And he says to Lupin, obviously not knowing that Lupin was the fourth
person.
part of that quartet. And that's when he says, some people deserve the Dementor's kiss. Sirius deserves it for certain things because of the relationship that he had with James and Lily.
Yeah.
And that's what really propels him there. And then obviously that brings us into Christmas. And Christmas is interesting for a few different reasons. They're the only three in
Yeah,
all of
exactly.
Gryffindor
They don't
Tower.
everybody has
All
left.
the other Weasleys went home except for Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just odd. I mean, he could have just invited Harry over, I
We were
suppose.
just there 20 minutes ago.
I don't know. It's interesting, but I mean, again, for plot reasons, there's lots of things that
plot
happen.
reasons.
Like,
Then
you know,
have that dinner with the table of 13.
yeah, it's just interesting stuff that happens
yeah.
at Christmas.
And then the firebolt.
Yeah, the firebolt
'Cause
causing.
the loss of that Nimbus is he feels that very viscerally. I find in addition to just like that's the first time he's lost a Quidditch match, but like the loss of the Nimbus in conjunction with losing to Cedric. Hold on to that theme, Harry. That I think means a lot to him. So getting the firebolt, he's super extra excited about it.
Yeah, and I think it continues to draw on like the tension between the trio. Ron and Hermione are obviously fighting, and then like this kind of like annoys Harry too. So he's annoyed at Hermione too. But again, like she's ultimately right about it all. But again, like doesn't make things any easier.
Yeah.
But again, like I think as the story continues to move, I think the big lessons that Harry has to learn are, kind of understanding that he can be really focused on his own internal problems, but then forgets to focus on, helping Hagrid with the Buckbeak trial, and like how Hermione doesn't forget. And I just think sometimes like getting into the weeds of his own day-to-day life, I think that's that's a very prevalent theme. Yeah.
And then if we skip forward a little bit through book 3, you've got Sybil making another prophecy, Sybil Trelawney.
Yeah.
And we've kind of...
2 in 20 years.
Well, I mean, apparently better than...
0.
A lot. Yeah, a lot of...
I mean, Ron doesn't make any prophecies, and he's always right.
He's always right. Maybe Ron's like part seer.
Maybe.
But anyway, so like she makes this prophecy of the Dark Lord's servant will return to his service tonight, basically. And he's kind of like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But like, she's also, again, instinct, right? He's like, most of the time, she's...
Batshit crazy.
Yes. But this time was different. Yeah. And he will go back later to tell Dumbledore. And because he's like, I think this. Hermione and Ron think she's crazy. I need to know what you think.
Yeah, and I think Dumbledore believes him immediately, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's not wrong. Yeah. And I think it's very important because, she's made a couple of prophecies that have been great. Everything else, so I don't really know.
Not so much. But then, like, that's the night, obviously, that you have, like, the Buckbeak supposed execution. Yeah. And then we get, Scabbers, turns out he's alive, and they're trying to go back. Yeah. And then, like, Sirius comes out of nowhere. Then you have that whole scene in the Shrieking Shack.
That's where you learn so much. And, like, I think
I need so much visualization of this in the show.
I think there's more capacity for them to give it more airtime. Mm-hmm. But I think that in the book, like, I think it's really important because... like Harry is able to like think for himself, think clearly, and like look beyond the story that he's been told, and like look at facts for what they are and really believe Sirius's story, even though like there's no real proof that Sirius his story is correct. But I think it's important for Harry to have that like view of like, oh, well, I think this makes sense because he's often in that spot, right? Like people don't believe him. Like we just went through Chamber, but it also happens in 4, 5, and 6 even, right? Like sometimes people are like, oh, like who is, like, why is the chosen one hiding or whatever? Maybe that's 7, I guess. So there's a lot of that, and he's often on the other side. So the fact that he's able to, be more, be able to see things for what they are is very important. And I think that goes a long way to developing that deep bond between Sirius and Harry.
The other really big thing that happens in the Shrieking Shack, aside from obviously all the Marauders context, is the fact that Sirius and Remus are ready to end Peter. Yeah. They are ready to like kill him. And Harry is the one who says, no, this is wrong. He doesn't fully understand why, I don't think, but he has the instinct to say, my parents would not want their 2 best friends to become a murderer for this guy, because he doesn't know that what the damage that will do to their souls, right? He doesn't know any of that, but he innately understands.
It's that, but also the conversation that he has with Lupin that you mentioned about like how does anybody really deserve that fate, and so I think it's very it matters. It's just like shows growth in Harry.
Exactly, and so he saves Peter's life, and that has a lot of impact, obviously, throughout, like in the end of the story. And then you obviously have like the werewolf, and he changes, and they get back into the hospital wing, and Dumbledore's like, here's how you fix this problem. They go back in time, and he really has to like fight his instincts to like not. I just want to like go in and fix this, and like Hermione has to slow him down, but then he's finally able to do the Patronus because he's like, the magic was in me all along. Of like, I thought it was my dad doing the spell. It was just me. And like obviously there's that great moment of like prongs rode again last night or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I think there's just so much growth and like a lot of important things that happen in book 3 when it comes to Harry.
Yeah, and it represents sort of like the true end of the innocence of like the trio, and book 4 is when everything really starts to get dark and very very real. And so it's a clear marker, like the first 3 books versus the last 4.
Yeah, I feel like book 4 is like sort of the transition year
Yeah.
that takes you through like because 1, 2, and 3 there's stuff going on, but they are like relatively innocent, and then 5, 6, 7 take a really left turn. But
Yeah.
book 4 is that like
Yeah.
bridge because it starts off kind of like
Yeah, but you know something's brewing
Yeah.
ever since the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Like Harry knows that he's gonna potentially go to the World Cup because Ron mentions it on the train, and then they like he's rescued from the Dursleys pretty quickly, which is an event in and of itself. But
the Tun coffee.
yeah, exactly. So there's lots of fun buried in there. But at the same time, like as soon as he goes to the Weasleys, he's able to have a bit of a normal summer, meet the rest of the Weasleys and things like that. But as soon as they hit the World Cup, like I think you can kind of sense that there's like weirdness going on in the air, and there's a lot of like universe building that happens in that
so
book
much
as
new
well.
stuff.
So that's really interesting, and especially to
It's
view
fun
it
for us as
it
the
is
reader.
fun for the reader. It's really cool to see it from Harry's eyes as well, like and Hermione's too, to that extent, because it's like Ron's probably used to it, like knows other wizarding families, but to see like how vast the wizarding world is beyond what Hogwarts and what their school life has been is really interesting. And so being able to meet the ministry officials, or what it's like to like just have
other
do, like,
international schools.
Yeah.
And I think like it's cooler for Harry than Hermione, because Hermione at least like it's cool for her also, but she's like she's done the initiative to try and learn about more of this world. So she expects or understands like, oh, like these are the Salem Witches Institute. This is like the Beauxbatons Academy or whatever. So she like knows a little bit of the context. She's not 100% thrown off, versus Harry is like, oh, right, duh, I should have thought about this. Like, I can't believe I never like thought about the fact that there must be other wizards outside of Britain.
Yeah.
And so for him and for us, because we're looking over his shoulders, it's like, oh, right, duh, we didn't think about this at all. And
Yeah,
it's just so cool.
It's just, again, like you're very limited to your worldview as well, because it's very focused on what you see through Harry's eyes. So it's not like you think about it, because that's not part of the universe that's been built, because you're so focused on school and stuff. So it's great. And then there's so much that happens in the World Cup.
I will never forgive the movies for just doing that thing with the let the match begin and then just cutting out the entire match.
There's so much.
There's so much
like,
there.
and I think it's especially important for Harry because he's so into Quidditch. That's like the one thing that he knows he's good at, and just being able to experience that on like such an elite level is a huge thing for him, because even like if you think about his childhood, it's not like he's ever been able to do that, like anything fun like that with the Dursleys.
It's not like
and
he's
stuff.
ever gone to go watch like soccer games. Or whatever. And like obviously it's England, so like soccer, rugby more relevant, but it's like it's just such a formative part of like again, like it goes back to what Dumbledore says about like friendship, love, children's tales, sports, like the joys of life, right? And it's just I'm so excited for the show to get into this, because that's gonna be amazing. But like sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and the counter to that right away, like seeing the dark mark and everything like that, is very like there. I think that's a theme in a lot of the books this year. Is like there'll be like something fun, but then immediately it's like clouded by something dark, and so like immediately, like I think Harry's like, he might not understand again the gravity of the situation, but recognizes that like it's not a good thing, and the fact that it happens because of his wand, and like I think that like further sort of kind of gives the reader a view into like what are the crazy things that are happening in the universe, and like no one really knows what's causing it, but there's like
something is happening.
yeah.
And like the other thing too,
We forgot to talk about the Riddle House, the dream.
oh my God, you're right. We didn't talk about the Riddle House. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, we did sort of allude to it at the top where we said we really start off with a bang, right?
Yeah.
But like the whole summer starts with, obviously, he has the nightmare.
Yeah.
And this is one of like, I think 4 or 5 chapters in the entire series that's not through Harry's perspective.
Yeah.
There's one in book 4, there's one in book 7, and then 2 at the start of book 6.
There's 2. There's one.
There's Spinner's End,
Yeah.
and then there's the other minister, and those are the 2 intro. And
That's
then
right.
chapter 3 is when you first get to meet Harry.
Yeah,
and Half-Blood
that's
Prince,
right.
But you're right. So those are one of 4 chapters that we don't have, like, we don't know about Harry, and like that. There's so much to talk about there, where like there's the Frank Bryce of it. Voldemort doesn't have a body, but somehow he's talking and like killing people. The Wormtail of it all, and then like obviously we've got like Harry. This is the first real time I think that we're so attuned into the relationship between Harry and Voldemort, because in books 1 to 3, it's more it's there, but it's more subtle.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's you like there's that dream that he has in book 1 where the back of Quirrell's turban is talking to him and saying you have to be in Slytherin and whatever. So those moments exist, but it's not as explicit. The Riddle House chapter at the start of book 4 is the first real like deep connection that we get into how intertwined their lives, their souls,
And
their
that
minds
that's a
are.
recurring theme.
And that's going to be so important as we move through, especially the next book, but as we carry on through the rest of the series. But I mean, like, and again, immediately he has this thing of like, I'm not going to tell the adults because what are they going to say? You had a nightmare, it probably didn't happen.
Yeah.
But like, again, his instinct is something is wrong. It's very specific who the players in this dream were.
Yeah.
It's Wormtail. We just escaped.
Yeah.
And
There is some PTSD there, but
Yeah.
like it's like different because he has someone that he
has
can
the
reach out to.
He's got Sirius. He can talk to him a little bit. I can't believe we forgot to talk about that, actually.
I was just too excited to talk about something good.
Yeah, I know. Again, the light and the dark with book
Yeah.
4, right?
No, but the fact that it comes back to like the Dark Mark, like later on, like he's
That's the precipice that makes him like go, hey, did any letters come for me later? When he
he's like,
talks
if
to Mr.
something is
Weasley?
up.
That before that, what I was gonna say was that obviously, like you get to the top box, it's Harry, Hermione, and like 10 Weasleys in the same box as the Minister of Magic, the Bulgarian, like all the dignitaries, and then like Winky, and like an extra seat, and then just the Malfoys. Okay, so there's like 20 people and the commentator. This is bizarre.
It is so weird.
What did Otto Bagman do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
What situation with a lawnmower could be this?
Maybe he killed someone. I don't know.
Maybe he like shredded somebody.
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot fathom.
Maybe he created a.
He made
Maybe he transfigured somebody
into the lawnmower.
No, yeah, or like transfigured, the lawnmower into something. Then it became like a
Sentient, like the
Yes.
Ford Anglia.
correct.
This is we're gonna have to talk about this another time because I have a lot of thoughts, and I have a lot of thoughts specifically about the monetary system within this wizarding world, and we're already gonna go into 2 parts just on Harry, so I can't get into that right now. Okay, we will get into it. I'll put a pin in it. Where was I? Oh yes. Okay. So he has this great time. They're having so much fun. And then immediately, like, he has this very vivid dream of, like, them calling out his name. And I think this is the only real time he envisions himself as having a life that he could do something that he's good at. Like, we talked about this earlier when we were talking about
In what sense?
Like when he first got put on the Quidditch team in book 1, right? We were talking about how like, oh, this is easy, this is good. I'm actually good at something. Like they're not just doing this because like I'm famous or whatever, right? And so like after the World Cup, like that night,
Right.
he has that dream about like the commentator calling his name out. And I think that's the like that this year, 4th year, is the only year where he's like old enough to be thinking about a future outside of school,
Right.
where he still has like the hopefulness of youth
Changing
to
the
be
world.
like, I could like do something I just love to do.
Oh,
and,
you
like,
mean because when he wants to be a
yeah,
Quidditch player? Oh, I see what
because
you're saying.
he
Yeah.
envisions them saying like, number 7, your seeker is Harry Potter or
I
whatever.
like that he's like a
He's-
Ronaldo fan,
yeah.
saying number 7 forever.
Oh, he is number 7.
so funny.
Okay, there's no doubt about that. And so like, but like immediately after the events of the graveyard, like all of that just gets put on the back burner, right? Because like his life, and like there's a line, I think it might be in Deathly Hallows, he's like, and he's talking about his relationship with Ginny in that line, but he's talking about like his life must end in murder or being murdered, versus her life could end in like her being at the end of the aisle marrying some like nameless, faceless guy that he hated, right? Of like, it's that same concept of like, he can't, after the events of the graveyard, there's no future for him other than this track that ends with either him killing Voldemort or Voldemort killing him. So like his fantasy or his dream or his ambition of being the Quidditch player, seeker, star has to be put on back burner. But this is the first, like, this is the only real year and moment that you get
like this
to
is
see
like
that
yeah.
joy.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and like I just feel like that's worth sort of calling out too.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think immediately after that is like kind of where the whole year there's a bit of a shadow on that, whether that's through understanding what the dark mark actually means, and like having to see the muggles being not tortured but like basically tortured, and how like understanding that Hermione could be in real trouble. And I think there's lots of echoes to how they feel when they're on the run in book 7 as well. But again, like I think it represents like the first time he's ever felt truly in danger or something like, or unsafe, when he is in the wizarding world and not under the protection of Hogwarts.
No, and he doesn't have his wand, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the first time he's been like out in the world and something really bad is happening. He's like, I don't have my wand and I feel very like naked and unprotected right now because the one tool I have at my disposal is not there.
Right.
And then like obviously after that is that whole scene with Bill or whatever, where he's like, come on, just try telling us, because like we weren't there. You have to give us some context for like, okay, sure, it's like a creepy sign in the sky, but it's a sky. Yeah, it's a sign in the sky. Like we don't know the context of this unless you tell us what it means.
Exactly.
So I just think that like, and then obviously they get back and like there's that whole like scene with the Weasleys, and like obviously Rita, you come into it.
Yeah.
Always causing trouble.
That's where it becomes real.
And finally, we get to the point of time where they're getting to Hogwarts, and obviously you have to have a Malfoy taunt, where he's like, "Are you gonna enter, Potter?"
Yeah, and he doesn't know.
And he doesn't know. And obviously Malfoy just takes the most like obnoxious tone about it, but like
that's just
par for the course when it comes to Malfoy. But then finally, when they get there, they like understand. Like what all the subtle hints from Bill and Charlie and Ludo were all about, and the taunts from Malfoy, and like we're like, oh, we're getting this cool like fancy new event, and it's gonna be like
it's the first time again like continues the theme of like meeting new people and
expanding the world. But I think it's this thing of like, oh, I could fantasize about doing this, but it's never gonna happen. So it's like, I think Harry is like, I mean, sure, if I was like, like if I was gonna do that, this is how I would do it, right? But like, there's like
But like it's just a lot of talk.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't
lot
think
of
it's
talk.
necessarily
It's a lot
like
of,
him
like-
saying I'm going to
yeah,
enter.
it's
and-
not like Fred and George are like, oh, if I was gonna do it, here's how, and then they have a plan,
Yeah.
right? Harry's just like, like here's how I would do this if I.
It's not
like
really well thought
Yeah, it's
out.
not. It's like a very loose, like just talking about it.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, he just expects that like it's gonna be like for once a very normal year. He's gonna root for whoever the Hogwarts champion is.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a grand old time. He's gonna get to go to a dance. Maybe he'll get to ask someone out. And
We don't know that, but
well, they said dress robes.
yeah, true. But
Like-
they don't know what it's for.
They don't know what it's
Yeah.
for, but like if someone said, "Hey, bring a prom dress to school," I'd be like, "Okay, so like, is there a prom happen?" Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
if
it is weird.
Yeah, like it.
Bring a tux. Why
Yeah,
don't you?
Yeah, like it's not that out of. You could make the dots. I'm sure Hermione was like, "Ooh, dress robes."
I wonder what
Maybe
we're
there's
doing.
a dance. Maybe there's a formal, like, fun party we get to go to. So, like, in another world, I think he was just expecting to, like...
I don't think he was expecting anything.
No, I think he was expecting to just like,
have a normal year.
year.
Yeah. But he's always expecting that.
Well, I like a quiet life,
Except,
Mrs.
like-
Weasley.
Yeah.
You know
You
me.
know how it is.
And then,
yeah,
obviously, everything goes to hell in a handbasket on Halloween.
Yeah, and I think that's when you know the year is not going to be a normal year. And I think this book is a great book because it's like a classic, like, who's behind it all. And there's all these curveballs. You think it's Snape. You think it's Karkaroff.
We always think it's Snape.
You think it's Bagman. And, like, there's all of these, like, twists and turns. You think it's Crouch at one point. So it's a really fun book to read. And then I like that this is, like, to your point, I like it's a bit of a transition book, so it keeps the series more interesting.
Yeah.
And then with Harry, I think just being isolated
From
throughout the
Ron,
first
yeah.
task from Ron is a big growth, not growth, but like it's just a development
Yeah.
factor for him, where he recognizes that even those people close to you may or may not always have your back. And then like I know they make up and stuff, but like it's a difficult period for him for sure.
And I think like it goes along. I think these things plot wise have to happen for a reason. We were talking about when we were talking about Chamber of Secrets earlier.
Yeah.
But like he has to go through the first kind of layer of the Crucible where like
Right.
the world is like the school's against him, but his best friends aren't. Then he has to go through layer 2 of the Crucible where like half the school and half of his best friends are on his side and the other half are not. And
Yeah.
then later it's like the entire government is against your side.
Yeah.
And like you've got like maybe 10 people that like you.
Yeah.
And then like obviously in book 7 it's the entire wizarding populace is made to think that you are like
bad
number
guy.
one terrorist in the world.
Yeah, it
right?
escalates pretty
It escalates very, like it goes on an exponential scale, but like so I think you cannot get to where you get to with undesirable number 1 unless you have those building blocks underneath, and it teaches Harry like
Yeah.
a lot of that like resilience and stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Task 1. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite tasks.
It's the best task to be a spectator. The other ones are not good.
I know, but as a
tasks.
reader, too, as a reader, 1 and 3 are good, but then the third one is like so speckled with like all the
Like how
Voldemort
much of it is
stuff.
Harry's doing and how
No,
much of it is
no,
like
'cause it's
Moody's
just-
doing?
no,
Oh,
'cause
the
it's just
graveyard of
the
it. Oh,
graveyard.
yeah, that too.
So like the first one is just so much fun to watch, like
Yeah.
Harry's in his element and like just be able to like show off his skills with something so simple. I think
good.
it's really great.
And it's
think it's-
amazing that like after like much later, like Crumb comes up to him and he's like, "I watched you fly. I thought
You're
you were
such
great."
a great
And like,
flyer.
could you imagine like what validation that must be for this like
Yeah, it's like
Little
Tom Brady
kid.
coming to you and saying, "Nice throw, man."
yeah, like that's just gotta be like the pinnacle.
Yeah. It's
And
awesome.
there's 2 moments for Harry in that conversation, actually. There's Crumb is threatened that potentially Hermione might like him.
Hermione. Yeah.
And we do not ascribe to that.
And then 2 is just the Quidditch thing, and both of those are like Crumb thinks of me as like not
An
just
equal.
an equal, but like a threat on both.
great.
It's just so good for Harry as a character.
Yeah.
because he has a lot of like that insecurity and that self doubt. I find.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of that stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
And then like the weirdness with the whole Rita and Bozo thing, like it's just so funny because it's like, it's such a like, it's not good for Harry, but as a reader, I think it's really interesting because there's so much serious stuff happening. So it's kind of just like funny to see some of the rumor mill and gossip.
But I think that makes it real.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think that makes it fleshes out the world more of like beyond just like this is like a teenage academic book thing. It makes it like, oh right, there's an actual whole world, government, politics, media outside of this like this four-wall establishment that we've got going on here. So like seeing the Rita of it all,
Yeah.
and then seeing like what her impact is on like not just strangers, like obviously Hermione gets all those letters in the mail, but like on like Mrs. Weasley,
yeah, it's
who
just
knows
odd.
them,
I know,
right?
it's just so, it's bizarre. Anyway, so that's like a recurring theme for Harry. Another problem for him to deal with,
Yeah.
the one that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we've got
Christmas, basically.
yeah, Christmas and McGonagall. Oh, McGonagall's like, your dance partners. And she's like, you have to ask your partners. He's like, what partners? Dance partners. Harry's like, I don't dance. She's like, I don't have time for your nonsense. Learn how to dance, figure it out, have a partner. You're gonna look dumb if you don't, and if you look dumb, I look dumb. And I will not look dumb. So figure it out. Is basically the pep talk she gives him.
Yeah.
And it's,
Metaphorically letting our hair down.
yeah. And then I don't understand how the twins have not been asked out. I mean, because Dean says they're the best looking girls in the year.
Oh, you mean, okay, not like Fred and
Not
George.
Fred and George.
Sure. Oh, yeah,
and then
okay.
Hermione and Padma.
Okay, I didn't know where you were
Sorry,
going
no.
with that.
Fred and George are like
I was just
out
like,
doing it.
what?
Sorry, yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
said twins. That's on me. I meant the
Maybe
girl
they were
twins.
just waiting for the right people. Maybe they were waiting for a couple of French boys to ask them out. Well,
Well-
it never happened.
Well, it does at the Yule Ball very quickly.
Right, so maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
I mean, if any, there's a lot of intermingling that happens between
The whole point of the ball is to make friends.
fraternizing with the enemy.
Anyways, I feel like if by the fourth book you still have
Ron
any
hormones.
doubts about Ron and Hermione being a thing,
That fight
I
really
think-
seals the deal.
if you still are a Hermione person, you should just quit now. Because, like, come on. I just don't understand because it's like, after that freaking blowout,
Oh, that blowout
there
is
is
something else.
nothing more evident and obvious that Ron and Hermione are like.
But you know what? He listens. He listens. She says, if next time there's a dance, ask me before someone else does. Flash forward 3 years. There's a wedding. There's a dance. Crumb shows up. He's like, you are dancing with me. I have no time for this. So you know what?
He does
took
learn.
notes. He implemented them.
He does learn.
This
It
was
only took
before 12 fail-safe ways to charm witches.
3 years, but we got there in the end.
Yeah,
Anyway,
six
the
is a
point
tough
is,
one for them.
point is,
We're talking about Harry.
there should not be any doubt. Yeah. No, but the reason I bring it up is because, like, I think, like,
Oh, the Cho of it all.
yeah, like, I think
Yeah.
there's
Forgot about her.
it's
Whoops.
fine. It's a bit of a contradiction because, like, I think Harry also has a bad time at the ball, but it's for different reasons, and like it's because his date doesn't go well, and like,
Well, it's because he was a chicken and he didn't ask her.
well, he did, just he was late.
Well, again, to Hermione's point, next time there's a dance, ask me first.
Yeah. Anyways, but the ball is great. Like, I think it brings back a little bit more normality into his life.
It's a little
and then
fun.
like when we, and again, like immediately ruined by the fact that they find out that Hagrid is a giant, half giant and stuff. So again, like there's always this like weirdness in this book where it's like one good thing followed by one bad thing. And so
I mean, like that point that you're making, like Harry doesn't realize why that's a big deal, right? They're like,
but you know it's not a positive. Like,
you
even
know,
he
like
knows it's not positive.
yeah, no, but like Harry doesn't. It's the same reaction he has when Malfoy calls. Well, actually, no, it's not, because at least with the Malfoy calling Hermione a mudblood in book 2, he could tell it's something rude by how everyone else reacts, right? He can't tell, like he can tell something went weird with the Maxime Hagrid interaction, but when Ron says, "What's wrong with him being a giant?" like he's like, okay, sure, but like he also does not pay attention in History of Magic, okay? Like maybe
That's
if he
true.
paid like 5% more attention, he would be like, oh, this is the
Ron doesn't pay any
predisposition.
attention.
But Ron was raised in the wizarding world.
Yeah.
So he has like, he's inclined to think a particular way about, but again, like that comes up with Ron when there's like that whole get away from me werewolf thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Ron is not a bad person, nor is he prejudiced, but he's grown up with certain beliefs in the world. And I think that,
like, I think it's just part of your
Yes.
upbringing and your culture. Like,
Yeah.
you just like are brought up.
you're
to
predisposed
believe,
to things, and especially in a heightened situation like that, like you had in the Shrieking Shack. Like,
Exactly.
I'm sure he
You're
would
already
say that
stressed.
again. And also, he's 13. But like, that's the same thing of like in Christmas time at the Yule Ball, he's like, well, like giants aren't like very nice. That's literally what he said. He's like, nobody who knows Hagrid would ever say anything.
Yeah,
because
but it's just like a predisposition.
Yeah, exactly. And so Harry doesn't have that context. And when Hermione is given that information later, she's A, not surprised, but B, like, doesn't care. But she also felt that way about Lupin. She didn't care about him being a werewolf.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just new information and a new thing for Harry to have to deal with.
Right.
And, like, that constant recognition of, like,
he doesn't know everything.
he doesn't know everything, and that in this world,
He's
other
still
people will think of certain classes of people, creatures, whatever, as less
Differently,
than.
yeah.
And, like, that's the basis of Voldemort's whole, like, campaign, right? So, like,
Yeah.
him, like, having to deal with, like, well, hey, like, I know this person who's that, and I know this person who's that, so, like the narrative you're telling me does not make sense.
right.
And I think that's really formative for him to, like, form those opinions and decisions himself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. And then, yeah, I think that takes us basically into. I guess there's a.
Well, he loafs a lot.
he
the
does
second
loaf a
half.
lot. It's when we find out a little bit of like sneakery happening, you know, like where he's suspicious of things happening at Hogwarts. Again, this is where his like detective comes out and
Yeah.
he's like, this is really none of my
Right.
business, but like I'm gonna go figure it out.
Yeah.
Like he's very like hero complex / nosy. So
Hold
I
on
think
to that thought for
it's just
24
interesting.
days.
Again, it's just like very much like coming. It's the same sort of like consistent behavior in him throughout, where he's like very much like motivated by curiosity and trying to understand like how to fix things that are maybe beyond his skill.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is also like again, this task I think is the one where it definitely feels like he would fail the most because he's very unprepared, doesn't
unprepared.
really do much in order to get himself
Yeah.
prepared.
He doesn't
And
ask the
so-
adults. He doesn't even ask his roommates.
Yeah, like he's and again,
He
I don't know.
only trusts two
but I
people
think
with
it's
this.
very weird. Like I think it's said in the book too. He's like somehow didn't feel like cheating to ask Ron and Hermione for help, but then he would have felt like he was cheating if he asked other people for help. And so like this is again just like it's a weird integrity,
It's like weird, like moral compass.
yeah, but again,
thing.
that's like a very Gryffindor thing. Like he feels like he can only ask like
yeah,
his.
it's like a purity
people.
thing.
Yeah, whereas like he can't even like trust Neville or like other people to ask.
He doesn't
for
ask
help.
serious.
I know, but like
That wouldn't count as well. Like if he had asked, he wouldn't have felt like that counted as cheating.
he wouldn't have, but I think he doesn't ask serious because I think he's trying to like protect him from like everything else that's happening. Anyway,
But conversely, I think
the way that
Because
he
he's not
wouldn't
back
have
yet. Sirius is not back yet.
Yes, but so I think he wouldn't have found it cheating if he had asked Sirius, but he would have found it cheating if he had asked Remus.
I don't know. I just don't think
The reason I think that is because Remus was in a more formalized like education position for the entire
Maybe.
third book, and I think like it's evidenced by the fact that like he doesn't ask Remus for advice. He doesn't like really talk to him or whatever, right? So like I think that he would consider Remus to be more in like the teacher McGonagall camp as opposed to
I
like
think it's more because like he knows Sirius is his godfather. I think he like automatically forms that weird bond. I think like we don't have that
no.
in our lives, so I think it's not like the context doesn't apply. But I think like that's a very like it has it influences people very differently to have that. It's almost like would you ask your parent or like would you ask your parent's friend? And so like I think that godfather falls like
in the middle,
but more towards like if you didn't have parents, like that would be your parent.
I also
So I just think it's different. Like I think if like you know like if like Harry's parents had died and Sirius did look after him and Remus was a big part of his life, then I
he
think
would
their
feel comfortable
relationship would
asking
be
either.
different.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's the case,
Yeah.
and so that's why I think he leans so closely to Sirius versus Lupin.
I also wonder if part of it is that like Harry has associated Sirius with his parents since Christmas time, right? Like not in a positive way. He's associated him with his parents in a very negative way of like he was their friend. They named him my godfather and then he betrayed them and he's a killer. I want to kill him.
Yeah.
Right? But he's like that link of Sirius to James and Lily is there since Christmas time.
Right.
Versus even though he knows Remus for much longer and he's ostensibly much closer to Remus, the link between Remus and James and Lily is not formed that same way.
Yeah.
So he doesn't like connect Lupin the same way as he connects Sirius. That's I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. And
That's tangent.
it's a bit of a deep dive
Yeah.
into like therapy talk, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, like the point I was trying to make is that like he's very unprepared for the
Yes.
second task. I think, you know, like somehow he's able to get through it by the grace of Dobby, who saves his life more than once. But again, like going into the lake, I think again it's a
Skin of the teeth.
yeah, skin of the teeth. But where I was going with that is like again the fact that like Ron is there as the person who he would most miss is a true testament to like their friendship and the bond that they've always had, even though like this year you have the biggest rift in between the two, other than obviously book 7, but like that one you can almost say that it's because of the like at least half Horcrux related. And so this is like I would say the biggest impact that is a situation that has the biggest negative impact on their friendship. And he still thinks of Ron as the person he would miss the most. And we've talked about that before. But yeah.
But like that whole second task, I think just goes to like underscore like the hero complex and like I mean. He gets
moral
the point.
fiber.
Yes, exactly. He gets the points for the strong moral fiber of like, yeah, he's the only Gryffindor in the task, and he's the only one who takes it seriously because to him it's like, yes, this is life or death. They wouldn't give me this information or this challenge if it wasn't like end all be all, and I'm not willing. Nothing is worth me leaving these people here to drown. I would rather come in last. I would rather die if I could get everyone out of here safely, right?
Yeah.
And like obviously like when you leave the task, it's like, oh right, duh. Like Dumbledore wouldn't just let like four
people
teenagers die for like a game who are not even the people who signed up for it.
Yeah, they're not even the competitors.
They're not even the competitors. They're just like I just happen to be friends with the competitor. Why am I being dragged into this?
You should know. You should pick better friends.
I would like to be left out of this narrative. But yeah, so like it's obvious afterwards, but when you're in that state of adrenaline, like yes, of course, Harry by his like nature of his character is going to feel that type of way, right? But that is just a constant through line for Harry.
Yeah.
And then conversely, from the second task where he does not prep at all, he definitely over prepares. In a good way.
Honestly, I don't even know if it's over preparing.
It's just like
I feel
regular preparing.
No, I think it's over preparing for the task, but I think it helps him because that's probably
D&D?
part of the reason
Yeah.
why he survives the
graveyard
the graveyard. Like I know it's like it's like 2 spells that he's learned from
but
task 1 and 3rd year, but
again, it's instinct, it's intuition.
instinct. Yeah, exactly.
Right? And like we also have that just before the 3rd task, we also have that whole element with Rita. Again, you just continue to ruin lives.
Rude.
Well, you get trapped in a jar for a year.
Shortly
Shortly
my
after,
golden teeth.
you lose all your golden teeth. You lose all your nails.
Tragic.
But yeah, like you have the Rita element of it all. You've got like the family piece and like just Molly and Bill showing up to support him.
It's great.
And like him and Cedric are on like decent terms. He's like giving
Honestly, they're on good terms. Harry's just in his head, like just being a bit of a
diva,
sore loser.
Well, yeah, but Cedric is so much taller and hotter and cooler and smarter than you are. And
Yeah, but you're 14, he's 17. Are you really in the same league? That's like saying a freshman competing with a senior. Like,
but that's my point, is that you're holding your own against him, so you should like feel good about
he's
yourself.
not really competitive. He's a very nice guy.
Exactly, that's the whole point. He's a fierce friend.
Anyways,
Okay, whatever. He's kind
Justice for Cedric. This is what I think.
honest. Whatever the opposite of the cursed child was, that for Cedric.
Yeah, that was not cool.
That was not. I'm not okay with
Cursed
that.
child doesn't exist. Point is,
but exactly, he's the one who sticks his head out. He's like, "Hey, they're all waiting for you." Like, where you felt like that's what I mean. He's very like he's like, "I've told my dad to back off."
yeah,
whatever.
It's
Like,
a lot, and,
it's a lot.
and again, like I think that's so important because you can see that like Cedric is even better than his dad, and like the next generation is always better.
Yes,
and, like,
exactly.
It's like when he dies, spoiler alert, I think like what Dumbledore says is so important because like there was no reason for him to die.
Yeah.
And it's like Voldemort's reign just kills innocent people because like he was just in the way.
He was just
you
in
know?
the way.
Like
He was just the spare.
He was not fighting. Like obviously he would have fought.
He would
against
have,
Voldemort.
yeah.
No,
But nothing had
denying that.
happened.
Nothing had happened. He wasn't like, like trying to stick a stand. He was just competing in this competition that had nothing to do with anything.
He was
And then
willing
was
to
just-
lose. He was like, you know what? I got to the cup first, but I have this.
Well,
moral
he didn't get to the cup.
He did.
first.
Because Harry had his busted up leg after the spider.
He would have gotten to the cup first.
And
And,
then,
I think
yeah,
the
he
back and
stopped.
forth is really
Yeah.
that like we've both saved each other. And
Yeah.
I think both of us deserve this, and like just being able
and
to
I think
be
that speaks to both of their characters.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
speak to both of their characters, I think, and again, we see it through Harry's eyes, but that like it's costing Harry a lot to say that as well. But
Yeah.
I think
It's costing Cedric a lot too.
exactly like, I don't think that we see the battle
Yeah.
as well from Cedric's head.
Because Cedric, Harry's pathway was pretty clear. Like he had some stuff, but like Moody was like, or Crouch rather, had diverted a lot of, and like Harry has that feeling in the back of his neck of like, this is too easy.
quiet.
Something is weird here. I don't like it. And so I can't remember if it's said explicitly of like he felt like there was something watching him, and again that would be like Moody's fake eye or Crouch's fake eye, sorry, but like again he has that instinct of something's wrong versus Cedric has actually gotten through every single obstacle faster than Harry, who had no obstacles relatively speaking.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways,
He's a very strong
so
loser.
it definitely speaks to both of their characters, and I think it's ultimately unfortunate that Harry
so sad.
does talk him into taking the cup. Then we get to the graveyard, which is like,
Could you imagine if, just hypothetically, if Cedric hadn't died, he would have been such a force of good on
Yeah.
like Dumbledore's army and Order of the Phoenix side. It just would have been amazing.
But presumably,
But if Cedric didn't die,
Harry probably doesn't live.
yeah.
I don't know. Like we can. That's like
We'll
another,
debate that later.
That's another fan theory to be discovered.
Yeah. But the graveyard in general, there's just so much that happens there.
yeah, but again, like there, like a lot of like Harry's character shows up in that book as well because he ultimately like the thing that is a defining moment in Harry's life and character is, he knew that he was not gonna die hiding. He was gonna die like he was gonna face death for what it was worth and
Straight backed and proud like his father.
and so that's like something that shows up again in book 7 and something that is
like he knows he's master of, like he's acting like master of death before he knows what that means.
yeah, but again, like for now it's more just like his Gryffindor showing up, knowing what the right thing to do is, and like just the character that he's been able to build over the last several years, and then like all of them, like everything that he's able to see with Voldemort and like being really single-minded and thinking like I have to get back because like one, survival, but two, it's more just like how are people gonna,
How would they know?
how would they know?
Who's gonna know?
Right. And so just having that wherewithal and being able to, think about fighting going forward, thinking that's even possible to take a stand in and of itself shows like his true Gryffindor ability.
Yeah. And so, guys, we are going to talk about the whole like graveyard monologue, like the blood, bone, rebirth, and all that later on when we talk about specifically Voldemort. It's too much to try and analyze within this part of the segment here. But the other thing I did want to talk about was specifically in the graveyard scene was about the Priori Incantato spell.
Yep.
Right? Because this is, like we were talking about book 4 being the bridge.
Yep.
Priori, that, like the spells and the wands connecting is visually and literally that bridge that connects the two halves of the story and specifically like their souls, their wands, their lives together, because like no one is expecting that reaction. And then when those spells collide and then like you have that web and like Harry's like using his will to force like the pulses of magic back into Voldemort's wand, right? Like, and like he hears it as like Phoenix song and it's hopeful, and we don't know what it sounds like to Voldemort's end, but like that entire
Presumably it's again like that the
Like-
scene that you witness at King's Cross, which is
but
like
inverse,
for Harry
yes.
it's a very peaceful like
Yeah.
chill scene, whereas for Voldemort
Yeah,
it's obviously
like the
agony.
inverse, yeah.
So it would be interesting to see like what it sounds like on the other side.
Yeah.
Maybe the show will
Maybe
do
the
that.
show
I
will.
don't know.
I don't know.
I have high
Maybe
expectations.
it's like banshees or like nails on a chalkboard or something. I don't know. But my point is, and then Harry's will again, it's instinct, right?
Yeah.
There's no like he's never encountered this.
Right.
There's no formula for this. But his instinct says these
Don't break the
pulses of
connection.
don't break the connection, and that these pulses have to go the other way and not my way.
Right.
And like he's like telling the music this.
like he's
And
just thinking out loud.
Yeah, it's instinct, right? It's that like innate understanding of magic, I think. And like it works, and then you get obviously there's the old prince of the book and the new prince of the book. There's a bit of a discrepancy here because the old prince, it's Lily comes out first and then James, but obviously James died before Lily, so in inverse, like, right? So it's just, I think they've corrected it since in the printing, in the editorial process. But the editions that we grew up with, James comes out last.
Yeah. It's just
straight
odd,
back and
like
proud,
like it doesn't make
whatever.
sense, but so when you read it, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
We were also much younger, and we were not like,
I don't know.
anyways. And so they break the spell. he brings Cedric's body back, and that's such a big pivotal thing. And Dumbledore's like, you need to stay here with me.
Yeah.
And that's the moment that he realizes that this person is an imposter.
Yeah.
Because if it was Moody,
he wouldn't have like sort
never
of
done
defied
that.
Dumbledore.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important that, like, one, Harry brings him back, but like the fact that Harry's able to even bring back the message of like Voldemort is back. I think that's a pretty pivotal
Because the
moment
second war starts right
the,
away.
in the whole war, and just being able to for Dumbledore to be able to start, you know, fighting the good fight again.
Yeah.
Like, not that he's unprepared, because he's been watching things all
Yeah,
year, but just being able to think about like being more strategic and tactical and how he's going to start fighting this battle.
Yeah, and then like obviously the moment with him explaining everything to Dumbledore while Sirius is there, that's such an emotional moment, because at first Sirius is like, why do we have to talk about this?
Yeah.
And then by the end, Sirius is like in the corner crying because he's like hearing about like the
James
remnants of his
and-
best friends trying to like save their son from beyond the grave. And it's just, you've got like the fox, and it's just very emotional. And then again, like you get to the hospital wing, and then that scene with Molly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good scene. It kind of comes full circle, because like we start the book with Harry feeling like he doesn't have any parents, and just being able to like share that moment with Molly and have someone who can support him through this like obviously unbearable tragedy, because he's certainly feeling guilty for witnessing and being a part of Cedric's death. And I think it's, you know, something that weighs heavily on him throughout the series, but particularly the summer that he's going to go into.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult and a pretty big burden for anyone to bear, let alone like a 14-year-old who's like already had all this trauma
I'll say.
built into his life.
But just that line about he couldn't remember ever having felt this way, like as like if like being hugged as though by a mother, like that's just such a heartbreaking line. And like that's one of the few scenes where we see Harry actually break down and cry. And I think it just speaks a lot to like the level of
comfort
and love and like the rawness of what has happened that night, right? And then right away we get into like the unraveling of the current world order, and we get into the dawn of a new era and the start of the Second War, because like pretty much right away we've got like, you know, everyone has to drop their facades. Dumbledore is giving people their marching orders, and it's like Harry's like, he wants his people around him to help support him and deal with some of the trauma, but they have their marching orders, because guess what? It's been 2 hours. The government is not on our side, and Dumbledore has like, he loves Harry and he wants his people to be there to comfort him, but Dumbledore also sees the bigger vision of like, we can't just leave things that the way that they are. And I think ultimately that is a positive for the overarching arc of the story, but like for Harry in that moment, it's tough to be like, it's a tough end of the year for him.
Yeah, and like that's again like that represents like the big change in like the wizarding world and where the story is going to take us over the next 3 books.
And again, there is so much more to talk about when it comes to Order, Half-Blood Prince, and Hallows. We simply could not put it into one episode. As much as we tried. So I think that might be a marcation for where we start next.
Yeah, it's a good place to stop, because I think it's a pivotal moment, like we said. And then we can kind of pick up sort of the darker chapters of Harry's life in the next episode.
Yes.
That's it for this week's episode of the Witch Weekly editorial. Thanks for spending time with us, and we'll be back soon with more insights from the wondrous world of Harry Potter.
Keep twiddling those dials. See you next time.